Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and today's video, which is it's the next Blood and Ash book. I will link the playlist so that you are aware. I'll link the Flesh and Fire playlist and the Blood and Ash playlist. This is, as you get, a review of A Soul of Ash and Blood, which is the 5th book in the series, and definitely not what I expected it to be, as you will see through my review. Admittedly, this one's a shorter review, so you guys should be good because you've gotten like 2-hour reviews back to back, and now you got a short one. So that's reason to celebrate, if anything else. Let's see, what else can I tell you? First, I do want to say an apology for these videos being a little bit late, because I had some technical difficulties editing with exporting. If my stuff is generally best for listening, considering that there's nothing that interesting to see on the screen. Those videos that were recorded with my computer only show my face, and I assure you, it's not that interesting. These are best listening to, so generally speaking, I just make sure that the audio is as best as I can make it, with my phone and my computer. And the reason I mention this is because I do know, in order to get last week's video out, or like the previous video, hopefully they'll be posted back to back, I had to lower the quality of the export. So I don't know how it's showing up for you guys visually. I don't know how it's showing up. But what I do know is that I did end up lowering the quality because it was working best for export. I've had some weird related iPhone issues. I can't tell you. I can't even. I don't know. I don't even know what happened. I'm sort of just here and kind of riding the wave because it happened after the last iOS update, and my iPhone is where I do pretty much my editing, and so I did lower the quality of last week's video. And while this video is not going to be as long, to save myself time, I am going to do the same for these videos. Again, I do not know how it's going to show up for you, so apologies if it looks strange or anything like that if you're looking at the screen, but I need peace of mind. So that's what it's gonna look like. Plus, this is a hobby, so it's not like I'm trying to do this professionally. This is more of a hobby, and this is kind of what it looks like for me. Anywho, with that out of the way, a couple of housekeeping things. If you are enjoying the content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're aware of when I post. The next video planned is also going to be a Blood and Ash video / Flesh and Fire video, but it's going to be quite the interesting review. I will tell you at the end. If you would like to see my some of my writing, you can go on my website, and if you would like to see them earlier, you can subscribe to my Substack, which both will be linked below. Also, if you just find it easier to do Substack over my blog, that also will be below for those reasons. I think I figured out a schedule for my website and my Substack to likely meet, maybe. But point being, if you want to see those are the places where you can find them. If you would like to support my work financially, you can make a donation through Ko-fi, as well as buy my books there. You can also buy my books on other retailers, all linked below as well. And if you are an unpublished author and need a critique on your manuscript, please email me. If you enjoy the way I critique books and you would like me to critique your manuscript, I will discuss with you the prices and all that fun stuff. But yeah, with that out of the way, enjoy today's video, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so honestly, I don't know how to review this book because I was actually really excited about it, and now that I have read it, I have mixed feelings about it. Like, the title kind of tells you, like, I don't think this book was necessary, but I still liked it. And there are things about it that I found really interesting, but I have some issues with this book. And it is the first book in the series that I have rated 4 stars. Every single other book was 5 stars, but this is 4 stars because it doesn't. There are. I don't know. I just don't like this book as much as the others, and that's saying something because I remember last year when the War of Two Queens came out, that people didn't really love the War of Two Queens. But I haven't seen anything on this one. I actually might have to look up A Soul of Ash and Blood to see what people think about it because I haven't actually looked up reviews. I'll probably look it up when I finish here. But I loved The War of Two Queens, but I don't love this one. I like it, but I don't love it. So let's read the synopsis and then I'll give you my thoughts. I have a feeling this one's going to be a little bit shorter than the others and more spoiler free than The War of Two Queens. So I think we're going back to mostly spoiler free for this book because I went spoiler free for I think the first 3 books. And then I went to some spoilers on The War of Two Queens, but I think we're going to spoiler free. So here we go. Only his memories can save her. A great primal power has risen. The queen of flesh and fire has become the primal of blood and bone, the true primal of life and death. And the battle, Castile, Poppy, and their allies have been fighting has only just begun. Gods are awakening across Elysium and the mortal realm, readying for the war to come. But when Poppy falls into stasis, Cass faces the very real possibility that the dire, unexpected consequences of what she is becoming could take her away from him. Cass is given some advice, though, something he plans to cling to as he waits to see her beautiful eyes open once more. Talk to her. And so he does. He reminds Poppy how their journey began, revealing things about himself that only Kieran knows in the process. But it's anybody's guess how she'll wake to, or wait, how she'll wake to or exactly how much of the realm and Cass will have changed when she does. #1 New York Times bestselling author Jennifer L. Armentrout revisits Poppy and Castile's epic love story in the next installment of the Blood and Ash series. But this time, Hawke gets to tell the tale. Okay, so my original first reaction to finding out that there was going to be a retelling, a retelling of this story, but from Cass's point of view. The first time I talked about it, I remember that I was not as excited about it as much. I was like, listen, could have been book 1.5, basically, like kind of like when like that kind of stuff, like, because I know that that's one of those things that I've heard. I was talking about how, like, also, like, some people may think of it as backtracking, which is basically where you go back and just tell the entirely the same story through the point of view of one character. Jenna Moreci did it with The Savior Sister. It's not that great. It's actually worse for some reason. So yeah, she did it with The Savior Sister. Stephenie Meyer did it with Twilight when she wrote Midnight Sun. E.L. James did it with the entire 50 Shades of Grey series. Veronica Roth did something similar, not exactly, but she did do something similar with the when she wrote the prequel short stories for Divergent, where we have uh, uh, there's one of the stories I think it's called The Traitor, where she tells parts of the Divergent story, some of the scenes in Ford's point of view. She also wrote a scene where Ford talks uh, where one scene, I think it's chapter 13 in the original book, but basically it's a scene where uh, where Ford tells his point of view of what happened. And I think that's fine. I don't really consider backtracking, especially if you can add something new to it. But I do remember thinking it was somewhat pointless in the original one, because I'm like, that could just be because it was made. Because my biggest thing is that it was made um, chapter, like book 4.5 or 5 or whatever. And I was like, that makes no sense to me. Like, why would it be? When it's like when the book is kind of like how do I explain, when the book is basically the when it's just in his point of view. Like, I remember not liking it, and then I read the full synopsis that eventually became available, and I got a little bit more excited because it was going to be Poppy in stasis, and I figured we were gonna get a bunch of stuff, extra scenes, and some kind of like that stuff as the synopsis promises, and we're gonna get a bunch of things from Castillo's point of view while Poppy is in stasis. And we did, technically, but not in the way I expected. So we kind of go back and forth. This story, I think, is like 10 to 12 chapters. A lot long chapters, by the way. It's like chapters within sub chapters, because we only move to the next chapter, like let's say chapter 1 or chapter 2, when we're moving to present. But then there are smaller chapters within those chapters where we have like titles like That Dress Will Be the Death of Me, where we see other scenes that happened in the story, but also other scenes we didn't get to see in that story because we were not in Castillo's point of view. And I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting format of writing. I don't mind that so much, especially when we got when we were, after the beginning, and we got little things happening as well in the present timeline, like Millicent and Malik returning eventually after dealing with some revenants. We got like things, we found out things about that were happening around Solus, that were like little updates on stuff that was happening around Solus and stuff like that. So we got those updates, kind of like the aftermath of the War of Two Queens, plus Castillo telling Poppy their story while she slept, and there were moments where he was like holding her in his lap, or he was just holding her laying down next to her. Like, there were moments where he touched her hair, touched her cheek, and those parts were really cute and sweet, and I live for those parts. Like, I'm a fan. Keep it up. So those are things I rather enjoyed, and so these are things I kind of found interesting, right? But I don't think we needed a whole book of Poppy in stasis, and I don't think we needed this story from Castillo's point of view. And the reason is that while a lot of things were happening, and like we got a lot of detail on certain things, I think the more important scenes in the story that would pull this story together didn't get as much attention paid to as they did in From Blood and Ash. Like, there was not as much attention, I think. There were even scenes that were removed, if I remember correctly. From what I remember from Blood and Ash, there were scenes that were kind of removed, which I get it. I think you have to, like, pick and choose. But generally, even the scenes that were not in From Blood and Ash, that were in Castillo's point of view, felt kind of almost glossed over to some degree. Like, a lot of the scenes felt like they weren't given the attention they needed and deserved. So I felt like um a lot of the scenes felt like they were glossed over, and they just didn't because of the way that they felt glossed over. They also didn't feel entirely necessary, and because they didn't feel necessary, they were it just kind of went out the window for me. Like I didn't feel the same emotionality as I did when I was reading From Blood and Ash, if that makes sense. Like the emotional stakes weren't there for me. So I feel like this book, there was a certain amount of like distance the from the original From Blood and Ash. And I also want to say, by the way, there is a content warning that is given in the book for self harm, discussions of self harm. So keep that in mind when reading. One of the things we get talked about is his trauma and what happens, and what happened after he was captured and after he escaped and all the stuff that he did. And I think those are good things to know, but these are things that could have been discussed, I think, and delivered in a different way that didn't involve a 703-page book, if that makes some sense. Like, I don't think it needed to be an entire book where we're hearing all this from his point of view, when we could have just had maybe part of a book or something and do something with that. Or we could have or the option that I would have preferred is for the entire series, not just the War of Two Queens, to have Castiel's point of view. That way it would be Castiel's point of view and Poppy's point of view in all the books in the series, and then we got to see both characters and how they were, because we're for most of this, for like the first three books, everything is filtered through Poppy, but the moment they were separated, it was we got some Castiel stuff, and we got, and in this one we just didn't get Poppy at all because she was in stasis. I will say I like the way that I like the way it was done better in A Fire in the Flesh, where we had her go into stasis. We had Sarah go into stasis, and it was only like a chapter or two, but we got some like things that she was remembering there, and things that we got to see her through some of her memories, but we also got to hear some dialogue where Nyktos was talking to her and seemingly telling her how they met and how he was feeling about her the entire time. I would have preferred that, and that is something that could have been added, I think, I feel like the fifth and sixth book could have been combined in that, where we have like a couple chapters in the beginning where she was in stasis, and we just got a couple chapters like that in both her point of view and his point of view, maybe, or something. And what's interesting is, if I think it I don't think it I don't see that, I don't know the timeline of when she was asleep, if it was a few hours or a couple of days. So those are things I would have probably liked better. I also think it just makes make more sense to me. I also found that they summarized some things at the end, and we're also coming back to Shay, who we heard about only in, or for the first time in Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and we're coming back to her. It looks like there is more to her than we know, which I'm excited about. But he didn't talk about her in this book. He's like, I'm gonna tell her that when she's awake. And we do end the book actually with Poppy waking up. And we also find out something really interesting. It looks like Castiel now has shifting power, and he can transform into a cat, like a cave cat, like her dad. I do want to say, we began the story with them looking for her dad, and I particularly liked the way that they met, and he's like, I do remember you, but he's also so tired that he can barely keep his eyes open. And we found out that Jadis is in Willow Plains. I don't know where that is, but we don't get like news if Nekta's found her or not. So what we do know though is that that they rescued him. She immediately went into stasis, and Nectus was the one that gave Castile the advice, which made sense to me. I think I talked about it in my predictions for this, where it would be Nectus or someone who knows about this kind of stuff that would tell him to talk to her, and to me that made sense. So I I like that a lot. And I think that it was an interesting way to do that. And I liked the beginning of it. I liked the way it went, and I liked some of the things that we got to see. And there were still some of the moments I love from Blood and Ash, but again, I still feel like they were not given the most emotionality the same way that they would have been in From Blood and Ash. I think From Blood and Ash is definitely better. I think out of the series, this is Jennifer L. Armentrout's weakest book, if I'm being honest. This is definitely the weakest in this series. And I think that, I don't know, I think it just had to do with the fact that we're backtracking to From Blood and Ash to tell the story, and we're giving Poppy an entire book where she's in stasis. I think it has to do with that, but it is definitely the weakest book in this series. I did enjoy though the shifting part, because we found out that he's able to use Poppy's magic. It seems like he's able to just shift, because he's almost about to get killed, because there's a revenant that wants to kill Poppy, and he's able to like shift and tear this man apart, and he's able to eventually shift back. And when he sees Emil, he's like, he's nothing. He's meat. He's not ours. Like he sees Poppy. He's like, I remember her. My heartmate, my everything. She's mine. And when he sees Kieran, it's like, yes, he's one of ours. But when he sees him, he's like, he's not one of ours. He is nothing but food. and Kieran is like, no, he's ours, but not in the same way. He's like, no, he's not. He's food. And he's like, in this form, ready to attack pretty much everyone that would pose a danger to Poppy. And that was lovely. That was cute. So that's how we end. We have him shifting, and then Poppy wakes up, and that is kind of how we end the book. And because of that, I just don't think this book was necessary. I think it could have been shortened into a couple of chapters where we have her go through her memories, like with Sarah, and we have maybe parts of it where he's telling her things about how he felt about her. And I think it could have been shortened by a few chapters maybe, and then we would have continued on with whatever is supposed to happen in the Primal of Blood and Bone. If anything, I think a Primal of Blood and Bone should have been next, and because this book is the weakest compared to the rest of this series so far. I have a feeling that the other books will be fine, because there are 2 more books from what I can see on Goodreads. I think the other books will be fine, but this is definitely the weakest of the books, and I'm experienced. Like, I still love it. I would still reread this. There are things I love about this book, but it is the weakest, and I have to admit that. So yeah, 4 stars. What did you think of A Soul of Ash and Blood? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you find yourself thinking, oh, well, this was not necessary? You know what I mean? So what do you think of it? Let me know in the comment section below.
Speech unmuted.
Okay, we are back. I hope that you enjoyed that review. Like I said, it was definitely going to be more non-spoiler, because there was just not a lot to say regarding this book. I do have one last thought though, in this case, and that is, if we really wanted a book where Poppy was out of the picture because she was going to be in stasis, why not focus on other characters instead of her and Castile? I know that technically the entire story thus far has been about them. However, there were other updates to be made. There were other plot points in the story, and if anything, so why not focus on those characters? We could have focused a bit more on Millicent and her relationship with Castile's brother, Malek. Or Malik. Sorry, Malik. we could have focused on that, as they were, if I remember correctly, they were hunting down revenants and stuff like that. So we could have focused on that. We could have focused on a lot of the things that were happening outside of Castile and Poppy, since they were a bit more relevant to the plot than Castile retelling their romance. And we were just getting the stuff when we were in the present chapters, where either he was reflecting on something, and from time to time, we would have like Kieran, and at some point even Millicent just come in and give updates. So instead of giving those updates, why not focus on those characters? That would have been my thought, because in this case, I do not like when this will have a point, I promise, but I don't like a lot of time when some writers offer advice and say that you shouldn't have a chapter that is quote unquote filler. And the idea is that every chapter should move the plot, and stuff like that. And I generally do not like this advice, because I think it's okay to have a chapter where we just have the characters essentially being the characters. Like some chapters, some quote unquote filler chapters could be used to develop the characters outside of the plot. And I think that's fine, essentially. It's almost like this is part of the reason I think I like, it's almost like the slice of life anime. That's why much I love it, because it makes sense, you know? So for me, it makes perfect sense as to why you would have, what's that called? Why you would have chapters that would be dedicated specifically to the characters and not the plot. However, the reason I bring this up is because in a weird way, when you look at it, because it focused so much less on the plot and a lot more on Castile retelling this story, it feels like a filler book. It feels like a book that suffers from being a sequel, and that makes no sense for this series, because we have each book was somehow moving the big story forward, right? And in all of them sort of ended in a way that that was a cliffhanger that made you want to read what was next, right? From Blood and Ash ends with after she finds out about everything, it ends with him saying that they're going to Atlantia and they're going to marry. The Kingdom of Flesh and Fire ends with their arrival at Atlantia, and the queen essentially giving up her crown. Book 3 ends with Poppy declaring war, and then book 4, while book 4 didn't end with much of a cliffhanger, I guess you could say it sort of did, and it is with them essentially, agreeing to, along with Nektas, agreeing to go to rescue the, Poppy's father, and eventually Jadis as well. So, and book 5 technically does end in a cliffhanger that makes me want to read book 6, The Primal of Blood and Bone, which, as of recording this part of the video, is out, but it just doesn't feel like it added anything to the series, unfortunately. Again, why I think this is definitely the weakest book. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have read this book. What are your thoughts? Because these are mine. I actually never went and looked up A Soul of Ash and Blood reviews. Surprisingly, so these are just, so this review has not been influenced by anything I've seen. I'm just very, very curious as to what other people think about it, but I haven't actually looked it up. I feel like I should, for, just out of, wondering if anyone had a similar opinion to me. Pretty sure, that is possible, considering that, what happened with the Spanish love deception, where I was like in chapter 5 and I'm like, I need to look up some spoilers, because I feel these things and I need validation. so I'm pretty sure that's possible. Yes. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope, and for allowing me to accompany you in whatever it is you're doing in your time. And for next video, I'm actually going to be reviewing the last book I have currently that I have read in the Blood and Ash series, Blood and Ash / Flesh and Fire series, and that is Visions of Flesh and Blood, and that is the That's like the fan compendium thing, or like the fan collector edition that Jennifer L. Armentrout released. I think a year or a couple of months after A Soul of Ash and Blood. I actually cannot remember that well. But she released it, and essentially it goes over all the different world building stuff, and it has it's written in it's written in Miss Willa's and Willa Collins, essentially, in her it's like her journal, and that is kind of what we're reading, like some of her journals and her visions and some other stuff. We get to see some excerpts from her diary. We get to see some short stories and stuff we just didn't see. It's kind of interesting. I'll explain more about it in next video. And that one is also a really interesting book, but I have an entirely different opinion. Anyway, yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you soon. If you enjoyed my content, consider subscribing. If you would like to see my writing, head over to my website and you can subscribe to my blog, or if it's easier, my Substack, which will be linked below. If you would like to support what I do here and generally, financially, you could go to Ko-fi and make a donation, as well as buy my book there. You can also buy my books in other retailers. And it is November, so I am going to do my best to... I have to double check if I scheduled it, but I think there's supposed to be a sale that I scheduled during the week of Black Friday, where it should be I think my debut should be 99 cents off, I believe. I have to see if I scheduled it. I'll try to confirm. I'll try to confirm if I remember to do so, but I think there's supposed to be one, but definitely check it out. And you can also, if you would like, if you like the way I review stuff and would like my my critique on your unpublished manuscript, please feel free to email me. It will be in the description. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, consume stories. Bye!